You've come to the right place if you're looking to create, launch, and scale a high-value online training program. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of LifterLMS, the most powerful learning management system for WordPress. Stay to the end. I've got something special for you. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by a special guest. His name is Aaron Edwards. He has a bunch of cool tools and stuff to check out. He's from WP Dev, but he's got this awesome project called Imagine. You want to spell that for us, Aaron?
Sure. It's
URL.
it's imaginn.ai. So Imagine AI.
What's the quick pitch on what that is?
The quick pitch is we're using like the latest AI technology for image generation. But so we have kind of two sub products using that technology. The first is the Imagine plugin in WordPress. And that is basically like a Gutenberg block or admin page in your admin. And you can just type in any kind of image that you want to generate. And then it uses AI to generate that for you. And you can save it to your library or insert it into your post or page or course, whatever it may be. And yeah, pretty amazing. And then we just launched a new kind of side project off of that technology to where you can actually train your own AI model with something like your face or a pet or a couple photo or even like product shots for e-commerce or even like a style. Like if you have a brand style, you can train the AI in that, and then you can generate any kind of images, including those subjects. It's pretty amazing technology.
That is awesome. You're also known for infinite uploads. What's that?
Yeah. Infinite Uploads is a plugin that I launched with a friend a few years back, and it gives you basically extends your WordPress media library to cloud storage. So it gives you infinite amount of storage essentially. So if you're like running out of storage or your media is running slow, you can just connect that plugin, and we make it super simple to connect to our cloud storage. And then you don't have to upgrade your hosting plan or anything like that. And you can just seamlessly expand your storage, and it just goes straight to our cloud and is served from our CDN. So that's Infinite Uploads.
That's awesome. And we're going to get back to both those, but let's start just with some current news. You and I both are into Web3 and digital assets and figuring out this whole next chapter in technology that's been happening. Recently, there was a collapse of the FTX exchange and FTT token, which is called into question. A lot of people are, scared or worried or getting out of Web3 or crypto. What's your view on, this new technology in the context of what we're seeing in the news right now in terms of, is this all a scam or is there real technology here? For somebody who's not down the rabbit hole like you or I, how do you explain where we are on this current evolution of this new technology?
Sure. Well, I guess like from the beginning, I found like this technology as being not really about like speculation and investment. Like I was more focused on like the underlying technology and what it could achieve, and actually playing with and building tools and projects off of that Web3 tech. So actually last year founded web3wp.com, and just kind of a group of people, community where we're just experimenting with Web3 technology and learning about it more and seeing how it could apply to like WordPress or open source. So we've gotten to do a lot in building and playing with tools like that, NFTs and smart contracts and stuff like that. But I still really strongly believe like in the underlying technology. The fact that centralized players or whatever people, bad actors, are using this technology to scam people. I mean, that's always going to be the case with any technology, especially newer ones that people don't understand as well. And in all these cases, it's usually like some centralized actor, so it's not even like an exchange like FTX. They're a centralization authority. So you're depositing your tokens and everything with them and then trusting them to not mess around with it, which of course, greed got the better of them, it seems like, and caused a lot of people to lose a lot of money. And the smart people are they know that they need their own wallet and they can store it themselves, and not trust some other third party to handle it for them. And those people are still safe. But yeah, I still very much believe in the technology and where it's going to go. And of course, right now with prices crashed and all this stuff in the news and things like that is shaking out a lot of the bad actors. And I think what we'll see over the years is the people who are building now and are building tools honestly and based on the technology instead of just speculation and investment. They're the ones that are going to be the next Google and Facebook or whatever, in the coming years. So I think it's a great time to build and invest even.
That's awesome. And at a high level, what do you think is special at the intersection of WordPress and Web3? Web3 touches a lot of things. It touches finance, it touches identity, it touches contracts, all kinds of things. But what about the intersection of WordPress and Web3? What's the opportunity set there?
For sure. Well, I think like Web 2.0 was kind of the revolution to where you could create your own content on the internet easily, whether that's social media or blogging. And WordPress was one of the tools that popped up during that Web 2.0 revolution. And it actually has stood out up till now because it allows you to have ownership of your own content still. So you're hosting it yourself. This is the WordPress.org, not .com, right?
Yeah.
So instead of it being centralized and whatever you write or type or your blog posts or whatever being owned by some centralized big corporation, tech corporation or something, you can actually host and own that data yourself. And WordPress, through its open source kind of foundations, allows you to do that, which was revolutionary and I think still is a real standout among the regular Web 2.0 crowd. But I think that overall like ethos of just open source and owning your own data, I think that ties in really well with Web3. And that's what it's about. It's about decentralization and ownership and using like new technologies that allow you to do that in new and exciting ways. Digital ownership of content, whether it's through NFTs or tokens to handle voting rights and things like that. So I think it's really interesting to explore those intersections of technology.
You think how do you think about like a website being decentralized? Is that even possible? It seems like with WordPress, you still have like hosting, you have to have a centralized host, but there's things like Filecoin and all this technology behind that for decentralized file storage or whatever. But I mean, not everything needs to be decentralized, I guess. And maybe, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to, if we look at WordPress specifically, where most people are building websites and web applications, how will that be impacted the most by Web3? And can a website or a web application become truly decentralized coming at it from a WordPress angle?
Yeah, I mean, there's some ways, like, for example, right now, there's still a lot of centralization if you're hosting your own WordPress site. So you got to buy a domain. And a domain you're buying from some organization, some corporation, and you're trusting that they're not going to take it away or remove it, or the government is not going to have it taken down, So that's one issue. I've had domains that have been taken offline just because someone filed a false report that it had malware on it. And that crashed like thousands of our customer websites. And it's
wow.
like, oh my gosh, it's like there's no control. You don't really own it. People say you own domains, but you don't truly. And in Web3, there's already some solutions, people trying to solve that, like the
ENS.
Yeah, ENS domain, to where it's actually decentralized and those domains are actually on the blockchain and immutable and no one can take them away from you. It can't be changed. And then you have the whole centralization layer of, even though maybe you own the data, you're probably not spinning up your own server like in your house, right, to host your website. You're probably renting servers from some web host. And so you're trusting them that they're not going to take it down because of their terms of service or whatever, because they don't like what you're posting, or because people filed DMCA claims or whatever, or fake legal threats against them, for hosting your content. We've seen a big trend for censorship, lately on the internet. And whether you like it or not, or you think that it should have been censored or not, it's kind of scary when anyone on a whim can decide to deplatform you. So you could own your data, but you definitely can be scrubbed from the internet. So there are things with Web3, like you mentioned Filecoin and stuff, IPFS. That's a decentralized file storage, and it's actually possible to host websites with that now, at least static websites. So you can point your ENS domain at your static website that's hosted in actual decentralized storage, and it can't be taken down. It can't be stopped, basically.
And it's actually spread out, if I understand this correctly, across a bunch of people's unused computer processing space that have opted into the network, right?
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because that's kind of efficient or environmental or whatever. It's like it's using unused resources for a purpose. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also excited about there is one blockchain called DeSo, short for decentralized social. Basically, they kind of built a new blockchain from the ground up that could handle like large amounts of media, like for example, Twitter equivalent or blogging equivalent of data, and that's actually all stored directly on the blockchain, where it's essentially a decentralized database. So when you write a blog post or your tweet or whatever it is, it actually goes on the DeSo blockchain, where it can't be removed, where it can't be scrubbed or anything like that, and where anyone can spin up their own Twitter or their own Facebook or their own WordPress.com and pull from that data that decentralized database. It's permissionless. Anyone can access it and index it and create their own front end. So I think that'll be really interesting to see if we can integrate like WordPress using that as a database backend of some sort.
That's cool. That's super cool. And drilling into what you've been up to at Web3 WP. As of this recording, there were two main projects. One is the Wapus, which, if you don't know, is it's basically like kind of like the mascot of WordPress, the little character, and individuals and companies and certain events kind of make their own character with their own branding and style and stuff like that. That's what a Wapu is. But can you tell us about that and the core contributor NFT project?
Yeah, sure. So you may have seen, like, on the WordPress news or whatever last year, we actually took the Wapu concept and kind of design, and we had some designers and stuff, and we actually created 2,222 completely unique Wapus.
Yeah.
And we minted them as NFTs and sold them as NFTs so people could collect them and stuff. And that was kind of a fun way to, both for me to learn like smart contract development and some of those underlying Web3 technology of NFTs, and educate people. Like, we released all that code open source and tutorials and everything like that. And also to raise a little bit of funds just to kick that project off, web3wp.com. And so that was a lot of fun. And then the next project that we've been working on is the core contributor NFT, with the idea of being rewarding people who contribute code to WordPress. So right now, if you contribute on that WordPress about page and the announcement post, you can see like your name there, and sometimes your avatar, just saying, hey, a way of thanking people or recognizing people's contribution to open source. But we were thinking it'd be really cool to use Web3 tools like NFTs or tokens to be able to reward those contributors so they can mint like a collectible NFT for each WordPress release that they contributed to. So we've been working on that, and actually just last month I had all the 3D commemorative coins, that will be the NFTs. So we had those completed by a designer, and so hopefully should be rolling that out in the next few months, to where people can actually mint for free the collectible NFTs. Yeah.
That's cool. Any hints for the future of the next Web3 WP idea or concept, or not yet?
There is another one. We actually started work already on like a Web3 plugin for WordPress.
Okay.
So right now it allows you like single sign-on, so you can use your Web3 wallet like MetaMask to sign into WordPress and create a user account. So that's really cool. So you're actually using your own private secret keys, that only you know to actually sign into WordPress, and that can work across any number of WordPress installs. So that was kind of like the first feature we added. And the next ones are probably going to be token gating, to where you can use it kind of like a membership site. So if people own a certain NFT, collectible, or whatever, or token, then they would get access to private content or things like that. So that way you can use like NFTs as like a membership thing.
Is
Uh,
that, would that be a plugin or would that involve a third party?
yeah, that would be part of the plugin.
I've heard
So
of I heard an interview with somebody at the Unlock protocol. It sounded like
yes,
something similar,
yeah, they're doing something similar. Yeah,
but I know they kind of mentioned WordPress, but they weren't like exclusively focused on it. And
right.
I think that token gating concept, especially for course creators and training based membership sites, the niche we're in, and a lot of listeners here, is a really interesting concept.
Yeah, I think so too.
And one of the cool things about token gating is, correct me if I'm wrong here, I guess it depends how you set it up, but like, let's say you got a token, so now you have access to this course, you can then sell that token to somebody else, right? Or transfer it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Usually NFTs are transferable, and they have kind of built-in financial plumbing, so you can trustlessly like buy and sell and trade them,
Yeah.
in really unique ways. And so it's a way of being able to, like, whether it's a ticket or a pass, or you purchase the membership to LifterLMS or whatever it is,
Yeah.
then that NFT is kind of like your ticket, proving ownership of that, and it can be transferable, which is kind of cool.
You mentioned like LifterLMS as an example. Like I see in the future plugin licensing being like that, like software licensing being NFTs that, are
Right.
more easily managed and transferred around. And I think it really
Yeah,
changes the game and how we think about affiliate marketing and all kinds of things. But most importantly, just access to the software or rights to
for
use.
sure. And you could do cool things like coding royalties into them. So
Yeah.
say someone bought your Black Friday deal
Hmm.
as an NFT, and then later on they want to sell it, like when they're not using it, then they can sell it for more. And then every time someone sells that membership, like, to perpetuity, either you get a commission on each sale, or they get a commission on each sale, or some
Yeah.
combination. You can actually tie that into the code, so it's enforceable, and just the way it works. It's kind of cool.
I think that's fascinating. How far out do you think this future is where NFTs are more mainstream, like, and more used for just kind of normal things outside of like art that we see a lot. People think of it as like art now, but like
Yeah,
more utility, tickets, licensing, things like that.
I mean, I think it's starting to happen a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, besides every major brand having their own NFT already, during kind of the boom in the last year,
Yeah.
um, there are a lot that are doing different tickets and things tied to that. A lot of it is going to be, kind of simplified to where you might not even realize that it's an NFT in the back end. That it just seems like a normal digital thing that you purchased or whatever. Um, Especially gaming is a huge area where that's really taking off right now. So a lot of games, whether you know it or not, like when you buy assets in them, um, whether it's like a skin or a dance or whatever it is,
Yeah.
um, in that game, it's actually an NFT, so it could actually be like traded or portable or whatever, um, within that game, or even potentially between different games, as
That's cool.
compatibility layers are figured out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's part of the challenge is like NFT is and then non-fungible token, and then these wallets and things are a little hard to use for the mainstream or whatever. And
Right.
when it
Yeah.
kind of fades into the background and just powers reality is
Yeah.
when it really goes off big. And like you said, it's already in a lot of places and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
One, could you kind of, since you understand the space so well, one of the things online educators run into is um, certificates, like certificates of completion, and maybe also the whole trust issue. Like if an employer is trying to hire somebody and they see a certificate, but they want to make sure it's real or their education
Yeah.
history is real, proof of merit, um, certificates on the blockchain. Can you kind of speak to the future of where we're heading, of what's possible with like somebody's educational history and how that works in Web3 or could work?
Yeah, that's actually a really great use case. I haven't thought much about it, but definitely there's things that are being worked on called like a decentralized identity, and that would be a way to use the blockchain to prove like your real identity, or even a online identity, like a pseudonymous identity, to where, for example, a lot of times now you have someone on Twitter or something, they may have a huge audience or whatever, people trust them, but they don't know who they are in real life. They know their Twitter handle username, although that could be taken away and it can be easily copied by anyone, um, who are trying to pretend to be you. But using Web3 technology and things like ENS is one kind of early attempt at that. But you can prove ownership by signing things, or like when you create like an NFT or things like that, you can prove that you were the true creator, because it's all tied to your cryptographic key. No one has your cryptographic key, so you're the only one that can sign messages and prove that you are that true person or true owner or true identity. So when it comes to any kind of like organization or educational institution, they could definitely do that. When they create credentials and things like that, those can go on the blockchain. And NFTs are kind of like a great use case for something like that, because you can store a lot of metadata and different things with that. And you can tie that to like that specific person or whatever, so they can prove that they're the true owner. And you could even turn off transferability, things like that. So there's something called a soulbound NFT. Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. So that's kind of a great use case for that. So the idea being that it's an NFT and that it's one of a kind, and only one person or one wallet can own it at a time. But that once it's issued, it's tied to a specific identity or cryptographic key, so it's non-transferable. So that's something great for any kind of credentials or things like that, where you don't want someone to be able to, sell their diploma to someone else, or transfer ownership on the blockchain. So that would be called a soulbound NFT. So that'd be like a great use case for that kind of thing that you're talking about, for sure.
One of the things to share just that really opened my mind to this whole world is like, we already kind of live in it. Like when you're born, you get like a social security number and then you have a driver's license. Like these
Right.
contracts and these credentials already exist in a very centralized way in some database.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like an evolution of that technology for the better, in my view.
For sure.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying is it's not like this everything here is all new. It's actually better ways of doing things, from even like real estate deeds, it's a contract, or
Mm-hmm.
a relationship at work, like an employment agreement, it's a contract. That we're trying to
Yeah.
make these things better through this tech.
Yeah. I think like if I was the president or whatever for the government,
I'll write you in, man. I'll write you
I would
in.
definitely um like create some of these things that can tie like credentials and stuff to the blockchain. And you can do it what's really cool, you can do it in a privacy protecting way. So for example, say you have a website that needs to restrict access to a certain age group, right? Like
Mhm.
you can't, you have to be over 13 or whatever to access or buy this or whatever it is. Um, right now, the only way they can do that is by some weird clunky thing where you like take a screenshot of your face and hold up your driver's license. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And even that is subject to all kinds of abuse. But with something like decentralized identity, you can actually just have them sign a message with their wallet, with their cryptographic key, and then that can release not how old they are or what their birthday is or what their name is. It could release only the data that they need, a yes or no, are you of age or not? You know, so you're
Wow.
protecting identity, privacy, all those kinds of things like that,
You're just
and
getting a
using
variable that mattered right there.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you can do that with any kind of thing that needs to be verified, whether it's diplomas, credentials, whatever like that. You can maintain privacy in some really cool ways because you both trust that source of truth, whether it's a government thing where they're putting that on the blockchain, or whatever it may be. So
what in terms of blockchain, outside of there's Bitcoin, and then you have the layer ones like Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, Cardano. Like, how much do you have a view on the underlying chains of like where we're going, or is this just kind of like a massive experimentation phase where a lot of these will die and we don't really know? Ethereum's really big right now, but it might change, might not. Like, how does the underlying chain matter?
I mean, I think it does, like, especially when you want, like when you look for that central source, it's like, what database are you using is what you're asking, so Bitcoin, I think, has proven to be quite lasting, even though it's the original technology, but that's part of its draw, is that it's unchanged and it's been proven over so many years to be resilient. And so that's kind of seen as like the digital gold or whatever, as your like most trusted kind of source or whatever. And it's fully decentralized and that no one owns it. There's no benevolent dictator or whatever, who's managing that product, which is as decentralized and open source as you can get. And then you have kind of like all these new fancy stuff where it's kind of questionable how decentralized they are, because like the nodes and things are controlled by a majority of people that have like certain invested stakes in it. Ethereum is kind of that's my bet more long term, just because they're the originator of like smart contracts, which is basically enabled what is Web3. And they're not super scalable and can be expensive to like build things on, but there's already tons of solutions there that utilize that as the source of truth, like layer 2s and roll-ups and things like that allow you to scale that to unlimited numbers, but still trust in the basic underlying decentralization of the Ethereum network itself. So
cool.
That's what I'm betting on, both in building, like when I code new things, and also like if I'm going to put money into it, I do it in Bitcoin and Ethereum, kind of for long term.
We're going to go back to Web 2 in a second, but if somebody out there is kind of getting curious about Web 3, for you as a developer or as a WordPress professional, like what are some places you go to learn about this new world? And I mean, you've been in it for a while, but what are some resources that you could point people to?
Yeah, well, first there's web3wp.com. We have a bunch of stuff on there, example code and things like that. And then, gosh, you caught me out. Mostly, like, since me being a developer,
you go to GitHub, like open source projects.
Yeah, open source projects. There's some really good like people that are on YouTube and Twitter and stuff. They're just doing good like content and tutorials and things like that. So there is a whole lot of noise out there about the investing side. But I think more important is understanding like the technology side. That will get you a lot further in the long run. So that's what I would look for. And there is plenty of good sources of content out there for that.
And I'll just say for the I'm not a developer myself. I really have learned a lot by some interviews on the Real Vision crypto channel. They do get into the investing stuff, but they also have a lot of interviews that are purely around the technology and what's happening. Let's go to Web 2 a little bit.
Yeah. Covering everything.
So this podcast helps WordPress professionals and education entrepreneurs, and you're got a lot going on in the education space. Tell us about Campus Press and EduBlogs. What are they?
Sure.
Yeah, tell us more.
Well, my day job, I'm the CTO of InkSub, which is a weird name that no one knows, and it basically its main product is WPMU Dev, which a lot of people are familiar with because it's one of the largest WordPress businesses out
And just
there.
real quick on that, do you sell all the plugins as one subscription, or how does that work? And you have
Um,
hosting too.
yeah, there's one off. Basically, our idea is to create like all the core things that you need for WordPress. So whether it's managed hosting, whether it's all your core plugins that include SEO and forms and security, image optimization. There's a core suite of like 8 plugins that are included with that membership. And we do sell like plans of one-off, if that's really all you need. But we also provide hosting and a lot of like really cool, like a real focus is on agencies and people who are kind of like running WordPress sites. Um, and so we provide a whole suite of really useful tools for agencies all in one spot. So you can use our hub to manage all your sites remotely, automatic updates, uptime management, basically everything you need, including managed hosting, including reselling. That's a big thing we've been focusing on. So we have all these really cool tools where you can white label our hub for your clients and embed it on your own website, so you can do all your reselling and management of everything like that, all under your own brand. And even our plugins can be white labeled that way too. So we don't have learning management, so you still got to use a Lifter for that. But yeah, so that's what we do. And then we have kind of some side things, Campus Press that you mentioned, which is enterprise hosting for mostly higher education.
Tell us
Some
about that kind of client. Like,
education.
what do they need? Like, what makes their need? Like, is each department have its own website, or it's a giant multi-site, or what is it?
Yeah, we have different things. When we originally started out, really, we were the like multi-site experts. So, and that was used a lot in education, and so kind of focus on enterprise multi-site hosting for that. And so we'll have big name universities. We have, I'm not sure which ones I'm allowed to mention, but
Yeah.
if you know the name of the university, there's a good chance we host them. Um, and
Can you
so yeah,
describe can you describe what multi-site is if somebody doesn't know?
yeah, sure. Multi-site is basically something that's kind of secret and hidden away in WordPress that you can enable, and it allows one WordPress install to manage an unlimited amount of WordPress sites. So they share the user base. So like your same user login can be used across hundreds of different blogs or sites, and they share the same code base. So if you have one set of plugins and themes installed, then all those sites all share that same code base. So if you need to update WordPress, instead of updating 100,000, we have clients with 100,000 blogs, or more, hosted on us. And so obviously that's not really scalable to be updating or managing your plugin updates for 100,000 sites
Yeah.
like that. So multi-site allows you to do that with one WordPress install. But of
What's
course,
the
with that scale, you need a pretty big, powerful hosting provider, and that's what we provide.
what you offer as well? What's
Mhm.
an example like structure of a university's web property? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like what do they have?
So we have different ones. We have one that they have uh, basically it's under their main domain, I think. And then like they have students, they can each set up their own kind of portfolio site blog, and that uses like a predefined template and theme. And it's all powered by their single sign-on. So they're still using their university login to create their blog and to sign in and stuff like that. And they create their own little portfolio site when they start as a student, and then throughout their time as a student, they're actually updating their portfolio there. So that's one use case. Probably our most popular is it'll be like one setup, and they'll use it for all like the sub sites for like different departments or groups or organizations, like sub organizations. So
Like
because
the
a lot of
business
times,
school or the
yeah, a lot of
anthropology
times
department?
in higher ed, they'll have every like little group, whatever, there's like, we need our own website, or we need to be able to like have our own blog or updates or whatever it may be. So that way they can just create one big install, and then it's super easy for them to use like a shared theme and design style and plugins and stuff like that, so that they can create their own like little branded like sub portals, for the different sites for the university.
How's that? Does like the university typically have like an IT department with some WordPress pros in there that interface with you, or are you guys doing all of it, or how does that work?
Yeah, usually there's someone, the geek, the resident geek, and they're
Yeah.
kind of they interface with us, so we manage the hosting. And then at that level, it's very much kind of like WordPress VIP, to where we're reviewing and vetting every like line of code that they want to commit or
Yeah.
push customization, to make sure that it can scale and that it has the security that the customer needs and things like that. So they're kind of interfacing with our developers, and we do some custom client work for them too. Sometimes
That's
if they
cool.
need like a customization or theme built or things like that, then we do that.
That's neat. WordPress at scale in universities and EduBlogs. Is that what you said? The thing where the students have their own blog? Is that what EduBlogs is, or is that something else?
Yeah, EduBlogs is kind of like our WordPress.com, but for education.
Okay.
So that's targeted at mostly like individual teachers. So if like a campus isn't trying to have their own custom thing, then a
Hmm.
teacher can spin up an EduBlog, and they can have their students like register like underneath it, and they each have their own little blogs and use that for teaching and things like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's land the plane back to where we started, which
Yeah.
is uh the Imagine AI, and then let's start with infinite uploads, since that's more just as we talk about WordPress site management and stuff like that. Tell us about that, and also how much of that can get involved in video
Yeah.
hosting, like, because I get this question from course creators who,
Hmm.
they may not want to put their stuff on Vimeo or whatever,
Exactly. Have
but
the
then there's
ads
the
and stuff.
challenge. Yeah, so tell us about it. And Amazon's like too hard to manage or whatever, so
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So like kind of the idea is infinite uploads was just making like cloud storage accessible to the masses. Because there have been other plugins like a S3 offload plugin and things like that that allow you to extend WordPress to like cloud storage, but it's very complicated to set up, and you have to get all the permissions. Then you have to get a CDN somewhere else and configure that and all the DNS, and it can be a mess if you're not really technical person. So our idea was just to make it super simple, where you just click connect, and then that creates all the storage and secures it and sets up the CDN for you and handles the syncing of media back and forth to the cloud and all that, just with a few clicks. So that's kind of the idea of infinite uploads. And that is a huge pain point for large sites, whether it's like a multi-site or especially probably learning management sites that have courses and stuff. They can have a lot of media, and they
PDFs.
need, yeah, PDFs, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and need to be able to handle all that. So I think infinite uploads is pretty helpful with that. As far as video, um, it works great for that too, and that uploads it and serves it from our cloud. But a lot of our customers, that's one of the things that they probably are most asked for features. They say, oh, we don't want like to use Vimeo or something like that. Because yes, you can encode your own video, then upload it, and then embed it in your plugin or video player or whatever. But that's really technical. People want a YouTube-like solution where you can just upload any file size, and then it converts it to all the different sizes and embeds it for you. So we're actually working on that right now. It's in development. So that's going to be an add-on for infinite uploads to make it super easy, to where you can just upload your video file, and then it creates 5 or 6 different versions for all different sizes and browsers and devices and everything like that, and has a fully customizable player and different things like that. So that'll be great for people who are doing online courses, because I know that's a huge need for them, so they can do that without. So not only is it encoding, it's hosting and embedding and customization and all that. So yeah, that's coming soon.
All right. Well, that's infiniteuploads.com. And let's go back into Imagine. That's IMAJINN.ai. So there's a challenge with WordPress sites where we want to put in a picture, but we don't want to get stuck with some copyright infringement, or we don't know where to get high quality pictures.
Right.
Tell us what we can do with Imagine.
Well, I'm sure you'd have to be under a rock to not have seen like all the developments in the last few months. It's been crazy, starting with Dolly from OpenAI, and then Google demoing their own stuff. There's this called ImageGen, I think, and Facebook has their own. And basically, these are large AI models that have been created using billions and billions of images scraped from the internet, and labeling them, tagging them, connecting them to text that describes them, and then training these giant AI models that allow you to, just by typing in what you want to see, create an image or an artwork. And it's just magical the first time you try it. There's no other way to describe it, that you can type in what you want to see.
I tried it, and this is on my phone. I just typed in like shaman in the forest, and
Oh wow.
this really cool picture came up. I was just like,
Yeah.
it's the first time you see it, you're like, whoa, that's wild.
Yeah, it's magical. There isn't any
Yeah.
other way to describe it.
Yeah.
And so these other models that were developed and kind of announced and showed off and stuff, they've been closed this year. OpenAI gave they had a waitlist access. Everyone was trying to get in, but they're very restrictive of what you could do with it and how you could use it. In fact, it was only, I think, last week that they finally created an API, a limited API, so that you could start to try to integrate it into other products. But what actually happened is some millionaire who's like, I love AI, is really cool. I think he's actually like some hedge fund guy. He a few months back, he's like seeing what's going on, and he's like, I'm just going to donate a bunch of money and to a group of kind of an open source group of AI researchers, and say, okay, I want you to build your own model that we're going to release open source to the public. Because, and this is called stable diffusion. And see, the problem with AI is it hasn't been accessible to the masses except through big tech corporations, because first of all, this technology is like so new and revolutionary, but also like to train a model of that size, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars in compute time, for paying for all those GPUs in the cloud to be crunching all those images and to train the models, So it's not accessible like for someone just to create that themselves, because it costs a lot of time and a lot of money to do it. Even if you can gather enough data, when you have tech giants like Google and Facebook, I mean, they have unlimited amounts of access to data that they can use to train this stuff, and huge budgets. So anyway, so he donated bunch of money to be able to train this model called stable diffusion, and so it was released at the end of August, very beginning of September. And the minute that came out, it was like off to the races. The power of open source, and of people building products, of developing new technologies and ways to adapt and use that model, that base model, to do new and exciting things, has been amazing. So as soon as that came out, I was frantically looking, okay, this is amazing. It's the new gold rush, the AI gold rush. How can I get that to run like in WordPress, or be useful for WordPress? And so that's when we dropped that plugin called Imagine, which you can use right now. It's on the WordPress.
Is on the repository.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And the only downside is that it takes a lot of compute power to run this. We actually have to spin up like cloud servers with A100 GPUs, which are like a $20,000 GPU. to run it at any kind of like useful speed, like even if like they've only recently gotten it to work on like the latest Macs, and
Okay.
that takes like 1 minute for one image. So that's comparison, and the compute power that it takes to do this. So what we do is for the plugin is we actually give you a certain amount of free credits so you can try it. You can generate a whole bunch of images, see how it likes, and then we have some paid plans if you want to get more credits or subscribe to a certain amount of like credits to use. But the idea is that you have this right within WordPress. So when you're creating a post or page or course, you can just click that button to insert that new Gutenberg block, or use our admin page where you can do it. And then you can just type in what you want to see as an image. So whatever it may be, you're only limited by your imagination,
Empowering the visionaries. I love that.
Exactly.
Do you have
And
some statement that's like, a lot of people kind of sometimes make fun of the metaverse or I mean, it's a term, like Facebook or Meta's thing where the people don't have legs or whatever. But if we actually think optimistically about the future of online learning and the metaverse or whatever, like what do you see out? Like what is the big opportunity with the metaverse, and how is it different from perhaps just websites or what
yeah,
the metaverse of learning? What would you like to see happen?
yeah, I think a lot of that is still to play out. Like,
Yeah.
of course, like with Facebook or Zuckerberg and all this tying kind of metaverse to being VR necessarily. Like to me, like I have my own definition of metaverse. Like to me, think about how much percentage of your time you spend behind a screen now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And compared to 10 years ago or whatever. And to me, like the metaverse really just is just a continuation of us moving our lives into a digital world. So, I mean, now your job is through a screen, your friends are through a screen, your social life is through a screen, your entertainment is through a screen. And so I think that we're already in some respects living in a metaverse.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of where you're going to be spending that time hanging out or working or whatever it may be. So I'm not convinced that that's going to be VR. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that'll be part of it, but I don't think that anytime soon we're all going to be living and doing our work and everything in
Goggles.
some, yeah, in goggles, but I think as a trend, yeah, that's where we're going. And that's where LMS that's just a part of that, when it comes to learning in the metaverse, in that digital world, and being able to make that accessible to more people, without geographic restrictions, time restrictions, things like that. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be like new developments, like being able to do learning through VR or things like that. There's stuff that are going to be really powerful, using those tools and stuff. But I think more in general, it's better to think of it as just the overall trend of us living more and more in the digital world, and interacting more in a digital world.
And one piece of advice, it's good to get out of the building and not spend full time in the metaverse. As a WordPress professional, we go to these things sometimes called word camps, and I actually met Aaron in person recently outside of the metaverse, and that was good to see in person. Because you're right, we do spend, I probably spend at least my work life 99% of it online.
Right. Yeah.
So that 1% is cool to get out, maybe more than 1%, but well, that's Aaron Edwards. He's at Infinite Uploads. You can find him at imagine.ai. You want to spell that for us one more time?
Sure. IMAJINN .ai.
Aaron's also has a lot of cool stuff going on. You can find his home site at uglyrobot.com. It kind of links out to a lot of things. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We went into the Web3, we went into AI, we went into WordPress multi-sites, the education niche, WordPress and universities, creating images from your mind, profile pictures, and how to manage media for course creators. So Aaron, thanks for coming on the show. Any final words for the people or anywhere else you want to send them? Aaron's also on Twitter. It's Ugly Robot on Twitter, or Ugly Robot Dev.
Yeah,
Yeah,
DEV.
on Twitter. Any final words for the people?
No, I guess just I'm interesting to see how people use AI and some of these AI tools that I've been building for learning management. I think that'll be really cool to see people find some like interesting, cool use cases for that. So show me what you got and hit me up at Twitter at Ugly Robot Dev.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Aaron. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMS Cast. Did you enjoy that episode? Tell your friends and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And I've got a gift for you over at LifterLMS.com/gift. Go to LifterLMS.com/gift. Keep learning, keep taking action, and I'll see you in the next episode.